Happy Studio Saturday! Hey, okay, so I was down here earlier and I figured out that my original plan isn't gonna work. And that's okay, because I think I know how to make it work, but it's just, it's gonna take a lot of work to make this thing work, but that's okay. Excuse me. So I guess, I don't know why I set up both of these cameras over here when really what I want to be talking about is over there. So let's go over there. Okay. We're back at the bench and it's officially cold in my studio now. So I've got a beanie on because my ears are going to get cold and that's all good. So, basically what I figured out is this, I guess I should show you, like this part right here has to be threaded. And so for that to actually work, I'm going to use like a tube and the tube is going to be threaded in there. But when you look at the tube, that section that we're talking about right here is a sandwich of this piece and, oh, that one's still glued together. So this one accidentally broke apart. So we'll use this one. So this is here and this goes here. See that? See that? That is that. This part, I just can't get in there, the tube. It's just not thick enough. But if this is, say that this back spine piece actually is like the thickness of 3 pieces of sheet, then the thickness of those 3, let's see if it'll focus, the thickness of 3 pieces of 18 gauge sheet are thicker than the outer diameter of this tube. And so did this camera die? Oh my goodness. No, it didn't die. I just didn't press record on it, but I pressed record now. So anyway, I'm glad I was showing you that whole time because at least, somebody was watching, whatever. Anyway, so what I have to do is for these pieces, I have to make them 3 thicknesses thick. And could I buy nickel sheet that is as thick, like 3 millimeters thick? Yes, I could. And I could have it shipped to my house and that would be great. But I just am going to try and part of it is okay, let me just do it with what I have on hand. And so I've decided that I'm going to just rivet them together. And so this morning, before I booted up the cameras or anything, I just started cutting out these backing plates. And so then that's going to be the final thickness of the piece. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use flush rivets to rivet all the pieces together. And then the tube is going to have to be soldered in. Now I'm getting kind of ahead of myself in the explanation, which is fine because you maybe know what to expect, or when it comes around, you'll be like, oh, that's what she was talking about in the intro of that one studio session update. But, so then, that's another thing. So now this piece of the clamp is going to be 3 times as thick. So then should I make this piece, which is the other side, should I also make this 3 times as thick? I don't know. I think more will be revealed. I think I'm just going to go through with the next step, and then I'll be able to make a more informed decision once that step is done. So I could kind of sweat solder all of these things together, but it's kind of they might end up getting soldered together throughout the process anyways, because I am going to have to also rivet them. Like now I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's like I came down here and just like looked at stuff and kind of like looked at where I was at and looked at where I was going. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is actually going to be like, I don't want to say it's going to be more work than I thought it was, but it's going to be more work than I thought it was. But I think that it's doable. And so, you know, it's like if this piece is 3 times as thick, then should this this piece is this right here. If this is going to be 3 times as thick, should this be 3 times as thick? And also this be 3 times as thick? And also, is that a tongue twister? How fast? Say 3 times as thick. 10 times fast, like 3 times as thick, 3 times as thick, 3 times as thick, 3 times. Why did I say 10 times? I don't know. Anyway, so it's just very interesting how when you start a project, you're like, oh, this is going to be pretty cut and dry. Somebody else already figured this out. I'll just follow his plans and it's going to be great. And then it's like, well, actually, so it's a good thing that I didn't make all of my little handmade nuts and bolts, because all of my little handmade nuts and bolts will end up being too short. Another thing that I was also thinking about this morning was, you know, this little piece right here, which, you know, John has them as just dowels, but I was going to have them be these handmade nuts and bolts, and that would also slide back and forth. Should that be a tube that is like a free rolling tube, you know, just to keep the mechanism smooth? Because having something in here that's like going back and forth, if it's a fixed, it might not want to roll. Like it's just like another thing to think about while I'm working. So that's like really what I'm going to be doing is like while I'm working, I'm going to be thinking about how I'm moving forward. But yeah, I've never done flush riveting on the channel before. So that's kind of exciting. You'll get to see me do some flush rivets. And I think I'm going to do the flush rivets in sterling silver and kind of maybe add them as like a decorative element, because I mean, I could make them in nickel, but it's like, well, I mean, anyway, so that's kind of like where we're at right now. And I'm just, you know, really caffeinated right now. So I'm ready to go. I've got like my water to stay hydrated and got, you know, everything ready to go. So let's just get to work.
As always, starting off by booting up all of the cameras, making sure that the batteries are charged and the memory cards are formatted. And yeah, I'm just cutting out these thickening plates. I guess I should call them that. So I'm doing loose traces because it's kind of like not worth being exact at this point. And once the pieces are all riveted together, then I can creep up on the edge and make it consistent. You know, and try and make it as beautiful as possible. So for every single piece of each clamp, I have to do this twice. I'm really going to town though. I wonder what coffee I was drinking that morning. I should have that coffee every morning. So it looks like a lot of them are cut out now. Oh, getting the cell phone. Okay, so I'm explaining for the final video pretty much for that format of content. Got the Nikon camera on now. So this is just removing the burrs. I mean, you've seen this from when I cut out the pieces, the original pieces that you saw me cut out in a few episodes back, or maybe the last episode. And Yeah, it was probably the last episode that I cut the other ones out, and then I use a file to take the burr off the edges so that when I stack them together, there's nothing like holding them apart. They'll be nice and flush up against each other. This song reminds me of when I was in high school. I think that's why I picked it. I'm center punching where all the little holes are going to be for the rivets for all of these pieces. And it all has to be pretty exact. I mean, it's not machinist exact. It's like metalsmith exact, which compared to some is pretty exact, but this may be the beginning of the constant migration that I have with myself, my pieces, and then also the camera gear from the bench over to the drill press and then back to the bench. So yeah, I'm at the drill press, and even though I center punched a lot of them, I only actually drilled through 2 of them. Oh yeah, I did this split screen. I was experimenting with different ways to add interest. So, I mean, I think it's pretty funny. You can see how I'm just going back and forth and back and forth. It was a lot of moving the cameras back and forth. I think that pretty much broke me at the end. I use my little digital micrometers to see how thick all the sheets were actually ending up being, and that will help me determine how long of a length the rivet needed to be. And then once I cut out a little rivet, I'm just testing it in there, making sure it like actually looks like it's going to rivet the pieces and create a nice flush head. Because there has to be enough material, but you don't want there to be too much. So it's kind of like this fine line. I have that really sweet little jeweler's. It's like a goldsmith hammer, I think. I mean, I didn't make that up. I think I heard that somewhere, but my dad gave it to me. And so, yeah, I have to cut these rivets by hand, every single one that I need. And then I put it in the little tiny pin vise and take the burr off. Yeah, this is just, it's a lot of the same. I think that's why I put this slow zoom in, because I was trying to create interest. So basically each piece of the clamp is thickened by 3 times as thick, and then I riveted them together only in 2 spots to create kind of like maximum quote unquote precision. I'm doing air quotes, you can't see that, but and then once they're actually riveted together, then I'm going through and drilling the rest of the rivet holes, and I kind of can rest assured that nothing is really going to shift enough that I won't be able to then fit the rivets through those holes. So it's just like kind of like a streamlining process. And I've also seen students of mine drill all the holes in all the pieces and then be really upset when guess what, they don't line up. It's just, I think most of you guys watching it's just an experience thing. I'm probably coming off as arrogant, but I don't know. I think I'm just like overwhelmed with witnessing how much work I actually had to do this day. Look, I got hot, so I had to take off my vest. I may have changed did I change all of my clothes? I wasn't paying attention to what I was wearing before. Yeah. It gets warm, when you're moving around a lot down there. It's really well insulated with these like concrete walls. So that is a blessing that if I'm moving around enough, it will warm up for me. But yeah, so now you're just watching me cut all of those little rivet pins by hand with my trusty miter jig and my dulling miter jig designated file. And now I'm just gonna go down the line and rivet them. I think at a certain point I got tired of just using the little tiny chintzy goldsmith hammer. And I brought out a big boy. I mean, big for me. Listen, everything is relative. That should be coming up soon though. I remember it happening. There it is. You see it? Oh, there was a little bit of a gap, and so I used that other, it's like a urethane. I think like the hammerhead of that is made out of urethane or something. Oh yeah, see I have a bunch of different like non-marking hammers to try and close gaps because I had some gaps. And so I think I would start it with the goldsmith hammer and then go in with the bigger hammer. So I think I've finished those. And that's probably why I'm booting up the main shooter and my iPhone to take some shots of the progress and film a little recap. And now I gotta do the same exact process to these jaws as well. How do I look? You can't see my face from this angle. Do I look upset? It might have still been pretty early in the day. I mean, I'm upset now looking at myself. Like, why didn't I just use thicker material? I just didn't know though. I mean, you guys saw the first episode and all the episodes up until this. Like, maybe that's why I chose this song, because it was like, I was so naive back then. I've come so far, learned so much. This is very like country kumbaya, coming of age song, I feel like. So, like slightly sad and bittersweet. I kind of like this new angle. I added this from like the overhead shot, and it's funny because the whole time I've been like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to use that footage at all, but it really does give a good angle. I like it, so I think I'll probably keep it. Yeah, this is when having a good podcast, something like the Fits All podcast or Making It or Full Blast podcast, those are my go-tos. So I'm checking all the cameras. Okay, moving them. Oh yeah, because now remember what we just did? Now I have to do that same thing. So I think in each one of these jaws, there was 4 rivets. But see, I just drilled just the first one in all 3 pieces. Or I guess all 6 pieces. But maybe I should just talk about like a one jaw, one side, drill 1 hole in all 3, and then use that hole to line it up and then drill the second hole. Oh no, I'm looking for something. Oh, dance break. Did you catch that? Every once in a while, she'll do a crazy little dance break. If you're not watching, you'll miss it. All right, so now I'm cutting all my pins. Rivet pins. I don't know if they should be called rivet pins or if they're just rivets, but it's just a piece of round wire. I'm trying to think. It was probably 16 gauge round wire, sterling silver, obviously, because I said that in the beginning. Oh yeah, so you can see I'm filming with my iPhone the rivet process. So that's one that's completely riveted together. on both of them. I do try and streamline as much as I can, but it's like you don't want to get too far ahead with one and then have to catch up with the other. Okay, so those are both riveted only once, and so then now I can drill my second hole in each one and then go back to the bench. I'm cleaning them all up with a little, that's what I was getting. I was getting a little tiny drill bit so that I could deburr all the holes. Because the burrs, you know, if they're not riveted together with 2 rivets, then the burr will actually like push them apart. And so that's no good. So everything is deburred and it's all riveted once. And so now okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting the little, what's it called when you countersink? I'm countersinking all of the holes so that the flush rivet will have, the head of the flush rivet will have somewhere to expand, like mushroom into, and then when it's completely filed and sanded flush, it actually ends up looking bigger than the size of the wire actually is. Once I successfully force the rivet pin through this second hole that goes through all 3 layers, then I rivet that. Okay, really going to town. I think I had fun picking out this episode's music because this song is ridiculous. I don't even really it's very intensive action montage-ish. So anyway, so now both of them have 2 rivets in them and everything is solidified and basically it's secure. And so none of the, I mean, I don't know how many times you want to hear me like repeat this. I'm so sorry, but this is what I had to do. So thank you for being my witness. And so then I'm just drilling the other holes, which riveting these other holes are not as bad because nothing is moving besides just the rivet. You don't have to really worry about like holding all the pieces together or anything. Maybe that's why I picked this really dramatic music, is because I was like, I got to keep their attention by some force, and maybe the music will hold them. Yeah, I was having trouble, I think, getting some rivet pins through there, so sometimes I'll use the longer length that the rivet pins are cut off of. I'll use the stock to like really just get it in there. Make sure, like, get it through, and then I'll be like, okay, now I can get that rivet pin through. So I didn't rivet that one all together yet. What is happening? Oh, I understand. I'm just now putting the countersink on the holes and then I'll rivet them. Okay. And guess what? I have to cut 1,000,000. If I haven't riveted all of those, I can't remember how many actual rivets were on those longer pieces, but now I think I just like sit and cut rivet pins for the rest of my life. I also like feel really bad because I have this sinking feeling. I know that there's other parts of this clamp that I have to do this same thing to, and I know that I took footage of it, so I don't know if it's worth me like putting all of this footage out. It's just the same. If you get really bored, I guess you can always skip ahead. That's always an option. Oh yeah, see, I must have been feeling that because then I did this like, oh, we're gonna zoom out and maybe that'll be interesting. Hilarious. What is this song? Oh man. I cut this together, I don't know, maybe like a week ago or something, and I'm just now getting around to doing the voiceover, and it's amazing. Anyway, so yes, you can see firsthand I'm drilling the rest of the rivets all the way through all the layers. I'm sorry, I'm drilling the rivet holes all the way through the rest of the layers now. And then I'm migrating my cameras back over to the back. Oh, I'm dumping footage. See that back over there? That's probably why I'm holding on to this shot for so long, because I probably don't have another shot. This is probably the only camera left standing. All right, now this is doing all the countersinking. I counted how many pins I have to cut. Oh man. Cutting pins for days. Why do people do stuff like this? I must have been having fun. No, I wasn't drinking a beer then either. I wish I could drink a beer right now watching this. I think it was just the carbonated water because I knew I had to stay on my A game. Oh yeah, we're zooming in. I must have no other options of footage. I'm telling you all my secrets. Those tools like get MVP, you know? The miter jig, that file, the pin vise, and the jeweler saw. MVP of this studio session for sure. And when you see me hammering it on the wood of the bench pin, I'm not actually riveting. I think I'm just like doing a little tap to try and get the rivet to go through the hole of all of the layers. I don't know. I thought I might have to clear that up.
Let's see. All right. So it's later than I usually ever work in my studio. But yeah, this is as far as I got. I tripled the thickness of all of these parts. And they're all riveted together. And tomorrow is another studio day, so I'm gonna cut them out. And I think that these pieces, I'm suspecting, also need to be like triple, because that's just what I think. But I feel good about where I'm at right now, and I'm gonna dump the footage and then format the cards and do another round tomorrow, and we'll see how far we get tomorrow. So, but thanks for keeping me company in the studio today. It was for sure a long one. We are in it for the long haul. I kind of feel like I lost today because this is work that I wasn't expecting to do, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens, and I'm not mad about it, but I'm a little nervous. But now I've done it, so it was kind of just like, do it and get it done. But anyways, okay. That's it. I love you, and I look forward to spending the studio spending the day with you in my studio tomorrow. So until then, have a great night, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Mwah! And now, a word to our sponsors of the Ironclad crew on Patreon.